Return to Monkey Island has hit digital storefronts, bringing a beloved series back to the forefront of adventure gaming. Original creators Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman have reunited with a team of Monkey Island veterans and some newcomers to create a game 30 years in the making. Whether this is your first, third, or sixth Monkey Island game, it's sure to please, surprise, and challenge anyone who sets sail from Melee Island. In this first impressions review, we'll take a spoiler-free look at the game, and if you're on the fence about anything, hopefully I can nudge you in the right direction. The game opens exactly where Monkey Island 2 ends, as promised all the way back in April. It's immediately nostalgic with a faithful recreation of the last scene of LeChuck's revenge. For anyone worried about the art style and thinking this game would be too childish, this section of the game may feel like your worst fears have been realised. But as soon as the game returns you to more familiar locations, everything starts to fall into place. The mood of the first two Monkey Island games are all over the Return to Monkey Island. Familiar locations are just that. Familiar. Once you're playing the game, the art style falls away and all you really see is Guybrush, Elaine, LeChuck, and the locations like Melee and Monkey Island the same way you've always seen them. For what it's worth, I like the art style, and I always did. And when you play the game from the opposing opinion, you might think you'll never be able to get over it. But time and again, I'm seeing people online say that they've started to enjoy the art style once they've started to get into the game. Things like the dynamic camera, animated character sprites and cutscenes really show what the benefits of the new style are. Thanks to the more modern technology used in game creation now, everything feels more alive than it's ever done before in Monkey Island. Fan favourite characters are all over Return to Monkey Island. In previous entries, characters like Elaine and LeChuck, who are some of the series' most prominent characters, only actually appear on screen for a few minutes before disappearing for hours at a time. This time around, they're heavily featured in the game with their own agendas, movements, wants and needs throughout. Characters are more fleshed out than they've ever been. Even side characters who may have seemed one-dimensional before. Return to Monkey Island makes people matter. If they're in the game, it's for a reason. So for people wanting to see a parade of the greatest hits, you may find yourself a little disappointed. Return to Monkey Island is a big game, perhaps the biggest one there's been, but there is only so much time and space for returning characters, and I include the islands in that. So temper expectation, because if you think everyone and everything will be on display, the game won't live up to it. Playing the game at a regular pace will see you complete it within about 10 to 12 hours. It's hard, but not too hard. Some of the puzzles will catch you out, but finding the right solution is never out of reach. One downside you might find is how accessible the hint book is. It's an item that sits in your inventory and can be accessed at any point in the game. Reaching for it is not too hard to resist when you feel like you're especially close to the solution, but it lies just out of reach. Using the hint book works like most modern hint systems in adventure games. You're served layered hints, which at first nudge you in the right direction, and if you need more help, it will provide more details until eventually giving you the correct answer. But it is totally optional, and if you can resist the urge to look, you can play this game just as you did The Secret of Monkey Island in 1990. The game includes a few optional puzzles and solutions to give players a reason to replay the game, especially for achievement hunters. Many things will elude the player on their first playthrough, and only by playing again will you be able to tick certain achievements off the list. Return to Monkey Island is the 6th game in the series, but to fully enjoy this game, you only need to play Monkey Island 1 and 2. While the other games are still canon and referenced within the game itself, the Ron Gilbert trilogy, as I like to call it, ties together so neatly that jumping straight from Monkey Island 2 to Return to Monkey Island is probably the perfect order for the game. The rest of the games in the series, Curse, Escape, and Tales, all serve as sort of anthology games, kind of like how Disney has introduced new stories into the Star Wars franchise, but the Monkey Island 1, 2, and Return to Monkey Island are sort of that core trilogy, that original Luke Skywalker trilogy. But having said that, it's not necessary to have played any of the previous games to jump straight in with Return to Monkey Island. There is a scrapbook included that recaps all of Guybrush's earlier adventures to get people up to date. So if you're playing along with your little ones, you can help them to understand who Guybrush is and what he's been up to. Journeying through the game is reminiscent of LeChuck's revenge. The player has more autonomy to travel between the islands, and solutions to puzzles are spread out across locations, meaning it's important to remember conversations, places, and things you've seen before. Interacting with the environment delivers tons of humorous dialogue fans have come to expect from Monkey Island. The returning voice cast are as good as ever, with Dominic Armato not missing a beat as the mighty Pirish Guybrush Threepwood. Alexandra Boyd delivers a perfect Elaine Marley, and Jess Hartnell does a fantastic job as LeChuck, filling in for Earl Bowen, who has retired from the role. The music is composed by the original team from the first games, and it will fill players with the same air of nostalgia that they want from the game. The iconic intro music is a spine-tingling, updated rendition that immediately lets you know that you're home. Return to Monkey Island delivers on every level. For a game that's as beloved and renowned as Monkey Island, it's a massive undertaking to get right. It demands to be made with love, respect, and wonder. And the way the developers handle that is to look through a lens of maturity. What does a grown-up Guybrush think like? How much has he changed? How much have the players changed? In 1990, Monkey Island was one of the first games people ever played. Many players would have been children. Now they're sitting down in living rooms across the world, booting up the game with children of their own. Return to Monkey Island does not take that for granted. This is a game that is made for kids of all ages, but none more so than the big kids, who can still remember the first time they stepped out from under the arch at the lookout with one declaration: to become a mighty pirate. Return to Monkey Island captures that magic again. This isn't a cash grab, it's a love letter to Guybrush, to game development, and to the players themselves. It's clear from the outset that the creators knew the importance of this game. For many, this will always be seen as a true Monkey Island 3, even if that's not technically the case. The game deserves to be played unspoiled for people. Lingering questions from earlier entries are addressed in this game. The secret itself is something that players have been thinking and dreaming about for 30 years, and Return to Monkey Island serves as a fitting conclusion to this arc. For newer players who may not have the same nostalgia to draw from, the revelations in this game will feel different, yet still fun and layered, and it's a game that will feel like time well spent. Those who are older, long-time fans of the series will find a lot more introspection while playing this game. It's about you, who you've become, and the journey you've taken in your life, and it will feel personal. The charm of this game is how it pulls that off in such a comforting way. Although the game was initially described as the series conclusion, it was later revealed that this was a marketing error and that Return to Monkey Island is not meant to be the end. Guybrush may well return to sail again in the future, but for right now, it's a satisfying way to wrap up the mysteries of Monkey Island. No matter what happens next with the series, the game has achieved its goal, and more than that, it proves there is an appetite for good storytelling, character-driven, point-and-click games, and the genre is alive and well. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, as I'll have some videos up soon about what games you should play next, as there are many amazing games releasing this year, with some incredible point-and-clicks already being available. Return to Monkey Island is just the start, and it's been a joy to play after waiting so long for Ron Gilbert to be back as its captain. If you've played the game, please feel free to comment below, but this video remains a spoiler-free zone, so please edit your comments accordingly so as not to spoil anything for people who haven't dived in yet.